If you look back at past periods where there was insanity in the markets and you were seeing stocks going up 50, 100, 200, 300%, if you bought towards the higher end after they had already rallied, 9 out of 10, maybe 99 out of 100 people ended up losing money. So in this AI craze, if you look at something like Nvidia, it's up from $100 to over $400.
The Chief Market Strategist of InTheMoneyStocks.com provides insights and forecasts for the stock market and Bitcoin in the coming days. He believes that we are currently in an AI bubble. Nvidia breaches milestone to become first trillion-dollar chipmaker. Wall Street analysts called Nvidia's forecast unfathomable and cosmological, hiking their price targets in droves. The highest price target valued the company at about $1.6 trillion, on par with Google parent Alphabet. Nvidia's shares rose about 25% last week, sparking a rally in AI-related stocks and boosted other chipmakers, helping the Philadelphia SE Semiconductor index close on Friday at its highest in over a year. The current ceiling is about $31.4 trillion. The U.S. hit that borrowing limit in January. Soloway made a tweet. Fed funds futures now signal a 66% chance of a rate hike in June. With debt ceiling out of the way, markets will turn back to inflation, rate hikes, and the long-term impact on the economy with rates even higher for longer. Also, banks back in focus with rates going even higher.
And Nvidia's chart told us that basically as of yesterday, there is a defined pivot top. Okay, now when I show you this chart, you can see this candle formation. This candle formation is known as a topping tail. And a topping tail tells you that it was so extended that so many buyers, the remaining buyers got involved, but big money sold into it. All right, when big money starts to unload, what happens? Well, it was trading at the highs of this tail, and big money pushed it down. Their volume, their money was more powerful than the small investors, the last few investors that were getting long. And that's really what markets are, right? It's greed and fear. And then you have institutions that think logically. You have traders like me that think logically. And ultimately, that topping tail is a signal that Nvidia has topped until proven otherwise. All right, so what I would do in this situation is you should look for further downside. In fact, pre-market, it is trading down just a little bit. There'll be some support around 389, which will be gap fill. But I'll tell you this, the gap that it created from a move up from 305 up to this 420.25 level, that will eventually get filled. Gaps, as the markets turn away from the debt ceiling, as we start to focus on the fact that the Fed funds futures are now pointing to a 66% chance of another rate hike starting in June, which is next in 2 weeks. 2 weeks from today, we're going to hear from the Fed. And now the markets are pricing in a likely hike of 25 basis points. So think about that, right? So again, you have the hype of the debt ceiling where small investors are like, oh, this is great, we're not going to default. I would counter that we never were going to default. Tell me which side of the aisle was going to be okay being blamed for a default of the U.S. They weren't going to do it. All right, it just wasn't in the cards because neither one is stupid. Now, we may not agree with this side or either side of the political, basically framework. But the bottom again is that you have to look at their motivations. They want to get reelected. Well, you know what? You let the U.S. default. How many people are going to be like, yeah, let's vote for that guy again. He screwed us all, right? I mean, think about that logically. So that's done with. Small investors got lured into the market. Now you have the fact that you turn your attention back to, wait a minute, the Fed is going to hike again, 25 basis points, all the way up even more? How long are we going to remain? I mean, we're almost half the way through the year. At one point, people were saying there was going to be cuts in the second half. We're still raising rates now that we're halfway through the year. All right? Inflation is remaining stubbornly high, which if you go back 12 months ago, I told you this. I gave you this game plan. The Fed was saying transitory a couple years ago. I said, nope, won't be transitory. And I said, inflation will come down from 9% because it's easy. You fix the supply curve, you fix the supply chain, you bring it down. What's going to be harder to fix is the fact that the retail worker, the average worker, is now making, instead of $12 an hour, they're making $20 or $25 an hour. That has to be passed through to the consumer.
According to Gareth Soloway, he closely monitors Bitcoin price movements and analyses charts to discover patterns and trends. Bitcoin has been battling to break over the psychological level of $30,500, which was also the low point in 2021 before the run-up to $69,000. Gareth's view on Bitcoin is equally intriguing. He explains that despite potential short-term positive impact in case of a default, Bitcoin's role is still not well defined, hence his belief that Bitcoin's bottom hasn't been reached yet. He even postulates a drop to as low as $9,000 into 2024. Bitcoin continues to move in lockstep with the Nasdaq to S&P 500 ratio. The positive correlation suggests the cryptocurrency is still a risky asset. The 90-day correlation coefficient between Bitcoin and the SPX ratio rose from 0.81 to 0.90, signaling the strongest positive relationship between the two assets since June 2022. At press time, the correlation coefficient stood at 0.89. This means that when the S&P 500 goes up, Bitcoin tends to go up as well, and when the S&P 500 goes down, Bitcoin tends to go down as well.
Bitcoin, again, you guys know I've been steadfast. I think personally 30,500 is the short-term top. I still am not convinced we're out of the bear market yet. I think that people that say we're out of the bear market are slightly jaded by hopes and dreams. I look at the charts. As long as we haven't taken out 30,500 and stayed above it, I'm in the camp that this is still going to come back down. All right, we did fall back there. We fell below it, okay? Now, notice how as we broke down over the weekend, number one, volume was light. Number two, it was a risk-on period because of the AI bubble and the AI craze. We went right back to that trend line on the charts, and then we pulled back here. Now, again, what I'm watching for is, do we take out 25,870? That is the lowest point in the last couple weeks. Two hits, one here and one here. Okay? If we take that out, then you drop likely down just below 24,000. 24,000 is your... Now, one of the things, and I always tie crypto to stocks, is because they are risk assets. We know that, right? Eventually, I truly believe in Bitcoin, and I believe it's the digital gold of the future. But right now, it's not. And I say this all the time, is that it started in 2009, we're in 2023. It is a 14-year-old, right? Are 14-year-olds logical? Are they digital gold? Are they like the place you run to for safety? No. They're adolescents. They're off the wall. They're volatile. They're risk assets. That's what you have here. Now, if we look at this chart, Bitcoin topped in 2017 on December 17th. 4 to 6 weeks later, the stock market, the S&P topped. Okay? So right there, that's number one. Now, let's go to this chart. In 2021, on November 10th, Bitcoin topped. 4 to 6 weeks later, the S&P topped as well. All right, boom. So you guys are starting to see a theme. And this is, by the way, this is what real technicians do. They look at the nuances of the chart. They find similarities. And one of the things that us as pros do, we don't put all our eggs in one basket. It's just because of this, it doesn't make me say, oh, well, you know, Bitcoin topped 4 to 6 weeks ago, so it 100% has to be. But what it does is it tells me probabilities, right? Probabilities are everything here, guys. So what we're going to do now, I want to just show you this. We're going to go to the Bitcoin chart, and I'll analyze it obviously shortly, and we're going to go to some other charts. But here's your Bitcoin daily chart. All right? In mid-April, we made the high. Okay? Now, where is the S&P 500? Let's look at the SPX here. The SPX, short term, possibly just made a high 4 to 6 weeks later. We're going to find out, obviously, over the next couple weeks if that's the case. If this follows the Bitcoin model, we're going to obviously keep an eye on that.
Crisis is increasing market worries. Although Bitcoin experienced a brief increase in response, it quickly lost those gains, which is concerning. However, market sentiment appears to be positive today, with the stock market and Nasdaq on the rise and strong tech earnings. As a result, Bitcoin is also increasing in value. What do you think the future holds for Bitcoin in terms of price and value? Will it continue to rise or experience a significant drop? To wrap up our discussion today, we invite you to leave your thoughts in the comments section. If you found this content useful, please show your support by giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to our channel for the latest news and videos. Thanks for joining us.